this event is being co-hosted by Shreya, who's a budding architect and she's a spoken word poetess. So how do I begin? I mean, we are so privileged and honored to have the dynamic, revolutionary, and really a very, very beautiful person, Dr. Amrinda Bajaj. She's an eminent author for the current Authors Interaction series. I do not even know where to begin the introduction of Dr. Amrinda Bajaj. It's such a long one. Dr. Bajaj is a practicing gynecologist and she's a unit head at Max Super Specialty Hospital at Shalimar Bagh. She is a gold medalist and she has done her post-graduation in gynecology at AIIMS. Writing has been her passion and that has led to the publication of several books that she has written, including 2 wellness books, an autobiographical novel, a novel based on 1984 anti-sick rights, a textbook for nurses, as diverse as that, a book of poems, a joke book, and a memoir based on the life of the most irresistible Mr. Khushwant Singh, the columnist and the writer and the journalist we all used to love. She has 2 columns in Women's Era that she writes regularly, and she's been writing in a lot of national newspapers. At present, she's also writing a very entertaining yet very informative book on menopause for Penguin Random House. So Dr. Bajaj, welcome. It's absolutely my pleasure. It's my privilege, and I feel so honored by your presence on this platform.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words.
I cannot wait to start my conversation with the book which everyone has been wanting to know about. Afternoon Girl, My Khushwant Memoirs. Must say, a hilarious, salacious, and very scandalous account of your interactions with Mr. Khushwant Singh, one and only Mr. Khushwant Singh. So please tell us your journey in writing about this most acclaimed Afternoon Girl, and what is the book all about, ma'am?
See, my uncle, my mama was his family doctor, and he knew that I'm very interested in writing and I was a fan of Khushwant Singh, so he introduced me to the great man. At first, Khushwant Singh was very cordial and courteous and kind with me, but soon he got tired of humoring a nonity, 35 years is younger to him and like a puppy following all the time. So he got fed up and he started making excuses not to see me, but which I was naive enough not to understand. So one day I got a shock of my life when my uncle told me, Khushwant Singh has told him to get her off my back. It was the most humiliating experience of my life. I was determined to prove myself despite him. And then I started writing and I started getting published in various newspapers and magazines. And just to show him that I can become a writer without his help or guidance, I would post everything that was published and send it to him. Till finally he relented and he said, I like gutsy people like you. And he took me back into the fold.
That's amazing, ma'am. So nice to hear, to begin with, and it's been requested by a lot of people who have been wanting to hear you, we would really like to hear something from this book, maybe a favorite paragraph that you want to share with everyone here. I mean, just to set the ball rolling.
I don't know the kind of audience we got because there are very naughty paragraphs and there are very straightforward ones. So I've chosen something in the middle. Okay. After a recent fall, Khushwant Singh was confined to his bedroom. His servant ushered me into a small room cluttered with heavy furniture that was as antiquated as its owner. Khushwant Singh sat on a chair facing the door, framed by the window behind him. I was appalled at the change of his appearance. He had shrunk to a shriveled caricature of his former self. Never tidy to begin with, his shabbiness had touched an all-time low. Remnants of his last meal clung to his maroon cardigan. The juice of tobacco he chewed constantly rolled down his grey-brown beard, giving the phrase attached to him, dirty old man, a whole new meaning. After the mandatory hug and kiss, I settled down on a chair by his side. Glancing at the writing pad by his table, I asked him what he's writing about. He said, it's about Nehru's affair with a tantric called Shraddha Devi. I said, Nehru and a tantric? I thought he had better taste, like Lady Mountbatten. That came later, he said. Initially, Shraddha Devi had a tough time getting to meet Nehru during his Lucknow visit. He finally gave her 15 minutes at the end of the day. And it lasted 2 hours. What does a man do with a buxom lady clad only a tiger's skin is anybody's guess. They met several times after this, and there was a book by Mr. Mathai who had written about his days in the Prime Minister's office, and he spoke of this lady, this Shraddha Devi, and about an illegitimate child she had born, Nehru. So, and then I asked, then that is what he told me. Then I asked, what happened to the baby? He said, some say it's a stillbirth and some say he's still alive. And I asked him, have you met her? Several times, he said. When I learned that now in her 60s, she was living in Nigamgod Ghat, I went to meet her. She was sitting on a raised platform surrounded by dogs. I bent down to touch her khadaus. Kaun ho tum? She asked. I told her my name. Kya kaam hai? Darshan ko aaya hoon. Sadhvi se jhoot bolte ho? Tumhe sharam nahi aati? She gave me a dressing down, but we got on famously. तुम इलस्ट्रेटेड वीकली के एडिटर हो और तुम पूछने आए हो कि उस हरामजादे ने जो लिखा है वो सच है कि नहीं. I told him, you should have said, मैंने ये पूछने आया हूँ कि तेरे हरामजादे के बारे में पूछने आया हूँ. But he just laughed uproariously. हाँ, he conceded. After that, I went to meet him several times. And as usually, always I would put my foot in my mouth. And this time again, I said, and you replaced Nehru as the man in her life. I made bold to say and almost bit my tongue. No, he said. She did invite me to stay the night once, but her being a tantric scared me off. What about the legitimate offspring? There was none according to Shraddha Devi. Though she conceded to the affair, she said, अगर शादी करता तो मुझसे ही करता. मैंने ही उसे कहा था कि तुम ब्राह्मण और मैं क्षत्रिय. हमारे बीच विवाह नहीं हो सकता, मगर संबंध हो सकता. That is what she said. And then afterwards, when I went home, I wrote to him, I was shocked at your appearance. You're looking so shabby, and why have you let yourself fall with the fall? You must get up and all that. He says, how cruel, how unkind, brutally true and unkind. But it is, I have become slothful, slovenly, and unacceptable. I recall my trying to see Nargis in the hospital in New York. I knew her well, but she refused to let me see her with all her hair gone and shrunken into a skeleton. So that's why now, because he had become slothful in old age, he had taken sannyas and was sitting inside. It was a privilege that I was allowed into his bedroom. So,
yeah. Great, ma'am. This gives me goosebumps, really. You talking about him, it looks as if he's just around the corner and he's there with us. Thank you. You want to go on, ma'am, or this is, you want to read more?
Yes. I thought it would be short, otherwise there are lots of things to say. I thought maybe people will get bored.
No, they never get bored. But I really want to ask you that how did Mr. Khushwant Singh influence your writings? I mean, how did he influence your the way you wrote?
You know what he said? He said, when I look at a manuscript, I look for 3 things: the English, the matter, and the manner of presentation. He told me, all the 3 things are perfect in you. In fact, you write better than me. And I've got it in writing also. It's not something that I'm making up. You write better than me, but you overwrite. I would stress the same things again and again. He says, you should be subtle. Secondly, I was quite surprised that he told me that, I sent him a story or 2 in which I'd written some bad words, which I usually don't write. But I wrote it because I thought he'd like them. And he said, no, you keep your language simple and don't try to impress with big words so that the majority can read it. And thirdly, read a lot of classics, modern classics, so that you imbibe something from that. So these things I've kept in mind always.
Lovely. Really. Lessons for life, I must say. So what is one major life lesson that you learned from him? We'll all really like to know. He was such a lively guy. He was so full of life, so charismatic. I mean, we'll really like to.
Surprisingly, what he told me was that self-pity is the worst form of self-indulgence. And I used to literally wallow in it like a buffalo in a pond. Because of him, I tried to get out of the muck. In everybody's life, there's something wrong with the other, and become a lotus in that and yet separate from that. So that is one major thing. Another thing he said was, Scotch is the best therapy and work the best antidepressant. Now I don't drink, so I replace Scotch with swimming and yoga, and work, of course, just distracts you from the distasteful.
Amazing. And ma'am, Afternoon Girl is indeed a very personal and very interesting compilation of letters between you and charismatic Mr. KS, as you call him, Mr. Khushwant Singh. You have a way of with words. At the same time, you have courage, you have passion to be this frank and this open, and you allow the world to know, and you really broke a lot of shackles. So what do you think helped retain your identity in the CEO persona that Mr. KS was, that Mr. Khushwant Singh was?
By being myself, honest and straightforward. And as always, trying to say something and then regret saying it, but he never took offense. That was another thing. Then my sense of humor, a gift of repartee, then those anecdotes that I used to send him. He would always tell me, your letters read better than your manuscripts and all that. And so that held his interest for so many years. Honesty, straightforwardness, and not beating about. He had told me that I tire of a pretty woman if she has got nothing in her upper story in 15 minutes flat. That he tolerated me for about 30 years, means off and on. I take it as a compliment.
I'm sure. Yes, ma'am.
I think now we can ask you a few questions. We can move on to your second book that we are going to discuss today, For the Love of a Man. And I must say that, it's not very often that we come across a book that is so hard hitting, that is so explosive in its own ways of, taking out the shackles of society and actually putting it all out there. And at the same time teaches the lesson. So I want to ask you first of all, the question that I want to ask you is, as we all know, it's an autobiographical book. So when you first decided to write about your life and the challenges you faced, what made you decide to let it be autobiographical and, not give it to somebody else to write for you?
Firstly, though I have no inhibitions in writing, thanks to my mentor, Khushwant Singh, paradoxically, I'm a very shy person. I would be too embarrassed to tell about these details, at least verbally, to someone face to face. And secondly, I write myself, so why would I may ask someone to write? Thirdly, I'm in a habit of keeping a diary. And I had to wade through reams of pages to take the sense of each life event, which would be too cumbersome for a third person.
Okay. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I think we all would love to hear and get a peek of the enticing autobiography. If you could read maybe a small extract from the book.
So this was first published in the UK, and they got a recommended status from US book reviews, which they give to 15 to 20% of books they consider outstanding, which was a great honor. But it was priced so high, so I got it published here by Nyogi Publishers, so that at least it's available to our people. So I'm just going to read the preface, again, a short thing, because I don't want people to get bored, unless you all want me to read more. Biographies of great men make worthy reads, but lives of people like you and me are the stuff that stories are made of. We are the unsung heroes whose silent struggles, failures, and victories remain buried under the mundane. By sharing one such story, I want to reach out to my fellow travelers in the path of life, struggling with their travails, and let them know that each of us carry a private hell within us. How we deal with it not only determines our present and future, but also colors our memories that can either embitter or empower us. What the protagonist did may not be sanctioned by society or religion, but to her, living a lie was the worst of all sins. She dared to live life on her own terms, and if things went horribly wrong, unflinchingly paid the price. Given a second chance, she would have done nothing differently except for one major act of submission. If only she had defied her heart, her parents to follow her heart. That one major if still haunts her. Father, lover, husband, son, all have left me one by one. Each time I fell on life's terrain, another's help I sought to gain. Another's help I sought to gain. Each one jerked his hand away and heartlessly walked away. Each time something within me died as feelings numbed and crystallized. Each stab, each wound, each little prick, scarred and hardened into a brick that turned my heart into a fort which could now stand without support. I've done with sighs and anguished cries, with love and longing, lust and lies. After elusive shadows long I ran. Never again will I crave the love of a man. From now on, it's just my dog and me and a book beneath a shady tree.
Wow, that was so beautiful. Sorry. I was just saying that those were very beautiful lines. And if some people want to go back and buy ma'am's book, it's there in the chat box. The link is there in the chat box. So, ma'am, I have a personal question for you. Like, while I also try to write sometimes, and sometimes when you're writing about such heavy topics and writing so much in detail, there are few things that we get stuck on. So was there any part in the book that you had difficulty writing or, sort of got stuck on?
Female sexuality. That is a taboo subject. People don't want to talk about it. They brush it under the carpet. But if I said I'd omit that major aspect of a married life or any life of a couple, I would not be doing justice to the book or to myself. But that gave me a bit of jitters.
But I'm sure that part is, including all the others, is what made the book, how it is now. So it all completed and came together.
Yeah, you feel with self-doubt and you feel ashamed also that is that the only reason you have strayed, or is there were of course other factors also.
So for you personally, after the book was finished and it was published, what was the kind of response that you got on it? And personally, how did it affect your life? What was the aftermath of that book?
See, as a piece of literary work, it was very well received. Lots of other international reviews, Pacific book reviews, and a lot of them, they give lot of good reviews. India also, Free Press Journal, lots of all. But personally, I was condemned, ostracized, isolated, despised, and I just didn't know whether I'd done right or wrong. But like I didn't know why I exposed secrets that any right-thinking person would take to the grave with them. But I was like a woman in labor who had to deliver, or she would die in the process. That was the thing. But then, it's all right.
Right.
Now, just years after that, and everything has come back to normal. Everybody's with everyone, and all are happy together.
I think more and more, even in Indian cinema and even in books, more and more we are trying to explore topics that were once taboo and that were once brushed aside, as you said, and more we are trying to explore it because these kind of things are something that actually need to be talked about till an extent and should not actually be brushed under the carpet. So I think it's very brave of you, and I think it all went in the right direction. So, ma'am, I think we would like to move on to the interactive round. And so for this round, we received a lot of questions, but since we have an intimate gathering today, we would be taking a few of the questions. And we are also recording this episode, so it would go on our YouTube and reach more people. So now we'll move on to the interactive round. For this round, we have selected a few questions. So we will be unmuting the person whose question we have selected, introducing them, and then they would ask you the question personally. I would request the person who would be asking the question to be precise and just stick to the topic. So
yes. Ma'am, awesome answers you gave, and I'm really moved. And thank you so much for really giving us part of you here. Thank you so much. Shruti, the first question will be asked by you. She's a chartered accountant and she wanted to ask you a question. Shruti.
Hi.
Hi. We could talk at length, but keeping it precise, I wanted to understand, it's amazing to find a doctor's writing books. So I want to understand this journey from a practicing gynecologist to being an author, and not only like writing medical books, diverse topics. And interacting with a person like Khushwant Singh ji, where the interactions are not that polite, and if I may say, quote unquote, like what a doctor is used to. So was it a thing that you always wanted, or it was, what came first, being a doctor or being an author? So this transition, I wanted to understand.
No, actually the author came first before the doctor. I started writing at the age of 10, and that was juvenile poetry. Then throughout medical college, I used to get first prize in the college magazine for poetry in the magazine. And I began to believe that I had some talent at least. But real life made me downgrade my opinion about myself, because a huge lots of rejection slips began piling up. And because I had no encouragement or consolation from people at home, my in-laws on this one, no one was interested. I would lock myself into the bathroom and then keep on crying and say that I'm no good, I'm no good. But one thing was sure, I never gave up. Like a ball, the harder I was hit, the higher I rose. And that's how I kept trying. And then I finally reached a point. And now I've got several books published. I'm published in lots of magazines and newspapers. Recently, an article had come in Times of India also. And now also, it's not that everything is selected. Of course, people, you should not give nothing is hunky-dory. Everything is a struggle for everyone. And then, and now if something is rejected, I say it's their loss. That's it. But I don't feel that bad. Of course, I still feel a twinge, because everything you write is your baby. You feel it's the best. But then others don't necessarily feel the same.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'll request Priyanka Sood to unmute herself, and she's a dietitian and she wants to ask a question. She's also an educationist. Priyanka?
First of all, I would like to compliment you. Whenever on the Google or Facebook I've seen you, I've always seen you with this beautiful rose on the right side of your bun, be it a pink or a red. So this is really one, I think, beautiful identity of yours. If you're walking in your hospital, a doctor with a rose. So,
yeah,
you should write
that's my USP over there also. Yeah. Even in government hospital, we're pool wali doctor.
Yes. That's why I'm telling you, you must write a book, a doctor with a rose, because it depicts you. Anyways, my question is, has your profession as a gynecologist brought you any sort of inspiration while building up the character of Amrita's character in your book, For the Love of a Man?
Definitely. Firstly, because it is my thinly veiled autobiography. It has a major chunk of life in a medical college. Then the second half that led to the downfall of water was a patient's husband, who regularly pursued me for 7 long years, till, I'll call her the protagonist, finally succumbed. Then he took her to from the heights of ecstasy to the abysmal depths of misery, from which she rose, bruised and battered, but not broken. And then she realized that a powerful woman does not need any man to support. And now she's a man.
Wow, great. And somebody has recommended me to read your book, When a Mighty Tree Falls.
Yeah, that is about the 1984 riots. That's still published by the UK, where you can buy a Kindle version. That's a bit expensive. Or you can take it from me. Where do you live?
I stay in very near Neeta's house, Faridabad.
Okay. Chalo, anyhow. I've got that book with me, or you'll have to buy from the UK.
So
Thank
next is
Thank you.
Pooja Malhotra. She's a cyber safety expert. Pooja, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah.
Hi, Saib.
Good evening, Dr. Bajaj. It has been an absolute pleasure listening to you. And I must say that you have an excellent wit, that sense of humor, and it's been very interesting. And I've really floored by the way you've talked and spoken. And I just wanted to know, did Mr. Khushwant Singh, the charismatic author himself, help you get your book published? Was he supportive, and just wanted to know that.
No, not at all. I thought he would. I hoped he would, but he didn't. Only once he said that I took this book, For the Love of Man. I took this manuscript to him. I'd even dedicated it to him, and he says, okay, you keep it here. I will give it to my the senior editor in Penguin. So I was very pleased, very happy. Because if someone puts in a word, they cannot recommend, because a publisher has to spend lakhs of rupees in publishing a book. They can at least make someone read it and then say it's no. So I was happy that at least someone will read it. And then after 1 month, I rang up. Mr. Ravi Singh was the senior editor that time. And he said, which book? I said, what? He'd never heard of it. I said, Mr. Khushwant Singh must have given it to you. He said he gives me books in bulk and we just distribute them to the sub-editors. I think that's why he was, all these pretty women would come there, give him a manuscript, would just collect them together and give it over there. I never felt more betrayed in my life. I wrote to him and told him all this also. This is just not done, I told him.
I mean, you're very brave in bringing out, such details and sharing it with all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, ma'am. You're so witty. I agree with everyone. Next, we have Rishika. She's a biotechnologist and she has a question.
Yeah, hi.
Hi,
That's
Rishika.
wonderful listening to you. So my question is, how did you empower yourself to take on roles of a doctor, mother, writer, wife, and an independent woman without compromising on your own self?
The hard way, the very, very hard way. I was a perfectionist in school also, and people would run away to study, for games and movies. I would sit and write and come first in class all the time. In college, then I wanted to be a perfect mother, the perfect doctor, the perfect wife. And I ended up losing my own identity. And then I realized by sacrificing myself also, I was not pleasing anyone, least of all myself.
Okay.
And an unhappy person cannot make other people happy. So these tight coils that I wrapped around myself, I loosened them. And when I didn't have to be perfect in everything. I need to be good, or good enough also would we do. And then I let myself free. And then after years of trying and all, reach this.
Okay, thank you.
You can
ma'am.
take my advice and start right from the beginning.
That was great knowing. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have Dr. Lucky Kharbanda. She's an eye specialist and she wanted to ask you a question. Lucky?
Hello. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I also try to write, and I'm a bit into literature, so I'm always short of time. So I was wondering, has your medical career been a help or a hindrance in your writing, especially being a gynecologist? You must be pretty busy. I'm in a branch which timings are in my hands. I can always choose the timings. But yours is an emergency branch.
See, there's a difference between a hobby and a passion. You always find time for a passion. You may find time for a hobby, one thing. And secondly, my first thing that was published was a series called The Diary of a Gynecologist.
Okay.
See, every person has a story to tell. And the patients, when they come to the doctor, they are in such a vulnerable state of mind that if you give them a little time, a little compassion, the innermost secrets stumble out.
Yeah, that's true.
And that time, and I collected so much material, which was shocking, scandalous, horrifying, and hilarious also at times. And then I compiled them, and then, of course, under fictitious names, and I sent it to Women's Era. It was serialized and it was very popular. So that's how it helped me actually first in the beginning. But because I wanted to write, I would write. Sometimes I was writing, and if a patient came, I had my clinic, I still have a clinic downstairs also, though I go to Max. So मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगता था क्यों आया मैं लिख लेती कहीं.
So that is a passion.
Yeah. Because if I'm in the middle of something, of course, if I haven't started, I would. We all
You kind of joined your, like you
Yeah, yeah.
started with your own story, and then so it could be
So
easier.
I started with their stories first, and
Yeah.
this was the diary that I keep. Even now I keep a diary, and then that Khushwant Singh was a separate diary. My
Okay.
Khushwant diary. I've written what I bore on which day, how he reacted, what was his mood on that day. Sometimes he used to welcome me like a lost relative, and sometimes he would just treat me like a stray dog. I don't know. Moods were so unpredictable.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
so humble you are, ma'am. Shilpi Kaur is the next who's going to ask you a question. She's a businesswoman. Shilpi, can you unmute?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
You have given a wonderful tip that keep your language simple and to attract the majority. It's a good tip for young budding writers, and even I'm planning to write something. So thank you for that tip. And again, I would like to thank Neeta Didi to give me an opportunity to ask her a question. Ma'am, my question is that is writing a therapy to you to handle so many roles in life, like a doctor, a mother, a woman, another, lots of things. So
See, if my heart is heavy, and if I empty it on these uncomplaining, all suffering pages of my diary, I feel light and free to pursue the other, to take on the other responsibilities that are on my shoulder. But if I'm only moping about and moody and grumbling and all that, then I won't be able to take on the other works as good properly. And as a doctor, especially in the OT and all, I need to be
you need to be very
normal. I can't carry my burden there in the OT.
true.
So that's
It reminds of me of my mother. It's been 2 years that I lost her. She loved Red Rose. She went through all these struggles that I'm listening like you have gone through. So it's a wonderful thing.
What is your business? What do you do?
I'm into marbles and granites.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Didi.
May I request Dia? Dia, she's a student. She wanted to ask you a question. Dia.
I wanted to ask, what is your writing process like? Like, do you try to be more original, or do you try to give the readers what they want?
See, I write from the heart, so only what goes in can come out. I cannot write further this thing. Of course, when I used to write for Women's Era, then I became a regular over there. So they wanted only those feel-good sort of articles or feel-good something, that something ended happily, and life never always ends happily. Something other can go wrong. So that time I used to get frustrated. But I write what I want to write, not what I should be writing.
That is actually one, I think, advice that we all should follow, writers. Ma'am, there was one very popular question that I got in the questions was, how do you deal with writer's block? Do you ever have writer's block? Do you feel like maybe?
No, I don't. I've got still so many stories in me, and I don't have this thing.
That's really nice.
I have Ardunti Gupta. She's an architect. Ardunti, you want to please unmute yourself?
Good evening, ma'am. Like, it's so nice to listen to you. I wanted to ask you if, as an author, you want to relive one of your moments, or like you want to retell your story. Is there any part of the story you want to retell or relive? If you could get my
Relive
question.
or not live that part.
Yeah, like,
See, given a second chance, I would have defied my parents to follow my heart. They just did not let me marry a person, though he was handsome, he was educated, he's a doctor in AIMS, just because he belonged to a different caste. If I had married him, maybe I would have been fulfilled and happy, but then there would have been no book. I'd be too happy.
like everything has a reasons, maybe. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Next we have, in the meantime, I also want to tell everybody that, we have a lot of time today since we have an intimate gathering. You all can put your questions in the chat box also. We will be taking that also at the end if we have time after the interactive session is over. Next we have Nisha Nagpal.
Hi, good evening, ma'am.
Hi.
It's really been nice listening to you, and like I think I am elder to you or maybe of your age, but you are really bold. I have to appreciate that, and you are coming out with that. So my question is,
Pay a price for that.
huh?
You have to pay a price for that.
So my question is, how do you balance between your professional and creative fields, and which field complements to perform?
They complement each other actually.
Okay.
Because firstly, I love both. And if my life was a tree, my profession would be my roots that anchor and sustain me, while the written word would be my leafy crown that flirts with the sun, the rain, the wind to blossom and bear fruit. So both actually complement each other.
Beautifully explained. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I think that was a very beautiful answer from you, ma'am.
Yeah.
We have one question in the chat box. Priyanka Sood is asking. It's been a very beautiful session, and if we have time, we want you to brief us a little bit on Menopause, the book that you're coming up with next. We would love for you to give us a little brief on that.
Now?
Yes, yes.
See, my dream was, of course, HarperCollins is a very good publisher. Yogi Publishers, Elsevier are good. But my dream was always to be published by Penguin. I thought that is the best. Like AIMS is the best in America. Told you like a perfectionist sort of a thing. So when I wrote, sent 3 articles, 3 chapters over there on menopause. And they said, we like your writing style. You've got great writing style and all that, but we'd like it in a story form. Now, medical subjects are not creative writing for me. So actually they're quite boring. Only unless someone tells me to write about it, then only I write. Like the textbook or the chapters in other books also I write because I've been told to write, not because I feel like writing. And like Corona in pregnancy is now just going to come in women's era because it's a thing that present scenario will be coming in the next thing. So these are different. So I had to rack my brains to write stories about menopausal women. So every problems that occur in a menopausal woman was converted into a story, and with the huge dollops of humor. And the whole place over there couldn't stop laughing at Penguin. They said, then they started taking the stories, and then I've submitted them. Then I've got a contract with them. I've submitted the manuscript also. And there's a huge process. First, the editor should like it. Then that goes to the salesperson. They see the viability, how much the chances of it being sold. Then there's a legal team, and then there's an acquisition team. So it was a big deal for me to get it over there. But it's funny, like besides the routine things like that embarrassing leak, if people cough and sneeze and there's like leakage of urine or something or the other. Besides this, sex at this age, do you still have sex, or baby in late age, or even romance, psychiatric problem, is it all right for people to listen, or even psychiatric issues, and normal things also, bone loss and the routine things to hey, but all in a different story forms. So when that comes out, I hope we'll have another session together.
Yes, definitely.
Ma'am, I have a question from Dr. Manorma Jain. She unfortunately could not join us, but she sent her question across. She wants to know what is the expression of love and how to interpret it. Quite philosophical, I must say, and how to respond. If love is expressed by someone, you don't want to respond, but it seems to be genuine. What should be done? I think a little tricky, but I'm sure you will be able to answer.
See, for me, love should be that you should accept the person as that person is, with all the faults. Don't try to change them because it will create a lot of friction and problems later on. Secondly, it should help that person grow. If there are certain aspirations and desires that person has, don't suppress them and slot them in a particular prescribed norm. So that will be also very suffocating. Then, of course, respect, kindness. I said great store by kindness. If a person is kind to you, I actually start crying because there's so few people who are kind. And thirdly is that good sex also if you have, but that should not be the only thing to bind people, because once that goes, then nothing is left. Friendship, companionship, these are also very important. As for someone who loves you genuinely, but you don't love that person, you should be grateful there's someone like this, because very few people have person who love them. But you should not feel sorry for that person and get into that relationship, because it will ruin both your lives later on. Towards the end, then there will be nothing in you. You might be attracted to another person whom you love, and this person will be left high and dry, still loving you and hating you at the same time, maybe.
So right, ma'am. Mr. Sharad Bhasin has a question for you. Mr. Bhasin, he's a businessman. He has been wanting to ask a question from you.
Sure.
Karachi.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, ma'am.
Good.
I just wanted to understand that you are a doctor, basically by profession. How does your profession as a doctor helps you in writing or a creative activity?
I think I'd answered a similar question, but I'll tell it again. See, doctors and writers both are very keen observers. We observe people's, we have to look physically as a doctor and person's problems, and mentally and otherwise also you're very aware of everything. Secondly, there's a galore of stories in the hospital because suffering people come over there. And there are a lot of emotions are involved in the suffering, and one leads to the other. One is dependent on the other. Mental problems lead to physical illness. Physical illness can lead to mental problems. So both there's a storehouse of stories over there that you can build on. No fiction is out of thin air. There's always a grain of truth inside, and a skewer like a pearl wheel is the oyster weaves a pearl, the novelist weaves the story.
Ma'am, just one thing.
Yeah.
Generally, the doctors who operate and they become emotional by seeing all the hard problems or what all the issues are in the hospital, then how will they operate? That becomes, because generally doctors, you cannot mix the two things, because emotions and getting operation, and I don't think.
Like there's a notice board in some OTs that you leave your shoes and egos outside. So, so I leave my emotions also outside, at least in the OT. But when I'm dealing with a person one-to-one, then I let her emotions come out. I do not say what that's a career, just let her speak, so that even by emptying your mind, now you feel lighter. And then if it's a good story, I can build it.
Okay, thank you. Great.
OT I can never leave. Labor room also. If a person is having severe pain, I'm saying, "Beta, jor laga, wo kahan lagayegi?" We have to scold her. So we can't be kind that time. You have to be cruel to be kind also at times. Otherwise, you won't push only.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
I have actually got a question in the chat by Mr. Krishna. He said, we have already talked about how it was very controversial for you to take those topics, but he wants to ask that, did it hinder you from taking those topics again, or did it help you to talk about those topics more in the future, or what was the impact of those controversial topics as a whole?
Which topics?
all those controversial topics that you've taken up, you've talked about patriarchy, you've talked about misogyny, you've also talked about female sexuality. So all of that, did it?
Now I've reached a stage I can talk about anything without any inhibitions. I can talk about everything.
But was there a stage during your writing career that you felt, it was...
This is the one thing that Khushwant Singh helped me, to remove my inhibitions as a writer. So there, unless I'm totally honest, I don't feel I've done justice to it.
Right, very true.
And then about that part, the sexuality part, there was 14th century India also, about how the woman was, about details, but that you all can look into the book.
Right.
If you don't want to speak.
I think we have a last few questions. One thing that I want to ask you is your writing journey overall, from writing all those different kinds of books, those joke books, then coming to your profession, and then of course these books on Mr. Khushwant Singh. So how has your writing journey as a whole been till now?
See, a writer is never satisfied. Where I have reached now, I didn't dream of reaching when I started. But once you reach a particular level, you think it's a stepping stone and you long to step over that stepping stone to go to another. It's not only about writing, it's about everything.
Right.
That's not being discontented. It's not even being ambitious. It's being that you need something to live. You can't be complacent and rest on your laurels. And like an actor will say, the best has yet to come and all that. So you have to keep writing and the journey will have to continue. And hope it lasts till my dying day.
Rekha, she's a working professional. She's been wanting to ask a question from you. Rekha Chaudhary, please.
Hi, Dr. Bajaj. Thanks for this interesting session. It's a very simple question. What do you enjoy more, writing or being a doctor? What gives you more satisfaction?
Very relevant.
I think one is the wife, the other is the mistress. I'm both.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Can't do without each other, both of them. What the mistress supplies, the wife can't, and the wife supplies the mistress.
Well, I can see a bit of Khushwant Singh in you,
Yeah.
Your repartee and
Someone told me you're a female Khushwant Singh. Whether you take it as a compliment or as a thing.
Absolute compliment.
Thank you.
It's been a wonderful session. I still see a few people who have not asked. Will you like to ask? Maybe you can put it in the chat and we can definitely take you on.
Just the last question for the day that I want to ask you is, any advice that you would like to give young writers, aspiring writers out there?
Well, exactly the advice that Khushwant Singh gave me. Read a lot of good books. And then whenever I'm in any time, I'm in 3 states of mind. One is I'm in the normal surroundings with my family, with my patients and everything. The secondly, I'm in my book and my characters. And thirdly, I'm in the book I'm reading. So I'm living 3 lives together at the same time. So that's how you can read a lot so that you know how. First, I used to think that if I read them, I'll start imitating them and start writing like them. It's not like that. You will know how to write actually properly. Secondly is that don't stop writing. Don't give up. Come what may. Most of us, very few, जिसको पहली book की इतनी चल जाती, पहली book चलती थी फिर second नहीं चलती है. So like that ना, it's that एकदम ही suddenly उनका था. You have to persevere. Perseverance is for anything you undertake. Similarly for writing. And thirdly, write lucidly. And suppose there's a particular scene, you write it as if you're seeing the scene, and the person also who reads it will know. Yeah, ye ho raha hai, wo ho raha hai, so that they can actually live that scene or the emotion or the conflict. Some people say that there should be a conflict in a book which makes it interesting. I don't consciously put a conflict. Hai to hai, nahi to nahi.
Very true. I think this is a good note, and we would like to thank everyone. Thank you, ma'am, so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today. We've obviously learned quite a lot, and we keep doing such literary events at Trends Events, so you all can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And I've also put in the chat the link for ma'am's book. So anybody who wants to buy these 2 amazing books, you can definitely go to that link.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dr.
Both of
Bajaj,
you.
thank you so much for saying yes for coming to this session. It means a lot to all of us.
The pleasure is mine.
The
Totally mine.
audience, the kind of messages I'm already getting about this interaction that you've had with us, and you took out so much of time out of your busy schedule, and our audience has gained so much from this. We have gained personally so much from your knowledge, from your clarity of thoughts, from your being so sorted. I mean, I must say that. And we are so much richer by your experience and very inspired by your books.
I'm also thankful to you and this wonderful audience for listening to me patiently. And I had a wonderful interaction with all of you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, Bye, ma'am. Bye, everyone. Thank you.